Hello everyone, my name is Sam, and as we can see here, I am actually located in my local park here in bright and sunny Phoenix, Arizona. And so today we are going to be learning all about citizen science. You may be wondering, what is citizen science? So it's kind of just as it sounds. So it's taking people like you and me and using the scientific investigation process to learn more about environmental issues and help contribute to science. And so using the scientific process, we're going to have a proposed environmental scientific question. And to answer that question, we're going to be making some observations, we're going to be recording those observations, analyzing some data, and finally drawing conclusions from that data and to try to answer that scientific question. And so you may be wondering, that kind of sounds like a lot. Where do you think that we could do something like this? I'll let you take a few seconds to think to yourself. It's actually kind of a trick question. You don't need a lab coat in order to participate in this. You can be located in a park just like me. You could be doing this while you're hiking, when you're camping, when you're outside on your phone, or even in your backyard. Which actually leads me to my first project that I'm going to be sharing with you guys, which you guys can do at home. And this is called Bugs in Our Backyard. Even though I'm not in my backyard, I'm still at a local park where I can find bugs. So let's take a look on how we can contribute to a scientific database. All right, everyone, we have moved locations and we are going to begin our first project for Bugs in Our Backyard. And so this project is super cool because it actually contributes to what's called sustainability. And so the main goal of this project is to track insect biodiversity. And biodiversity just means the variety of life. So the variety of insects that we see that we're going to be observing. In sustainability, there are a couple of goals that are really important that we are actually going to help contribute towards. So the first one is responsible consumption and production. So that's kind of a mouthful. But in simple terms, as the human population here on Earth increases, the demand of the materials that we're going to need is also going to increase. So we need to make sure to help preserve and conserve those materials as needed. So the second one, and the more obvious one I would say, is life on Earth. So obviously we're going to be tracking the insects that we see or that you see in your local community. And so we want to track the biodiversity, like I said, of those insects to make sure that we can preserve our insects and all of the wonderful organisms here on Earth. And so now that we have gone over the importance of it, let's go ahead and make some observations. All right, so now that you are in your backyard, your park, or wherever you decided to go to observe your insects, let's go ahead and make some observations. So, what color is your insect? Maybe it's making some noise. Maybe it's just sitting there. You need to make these observations when you're looking at it. But there are a lot of things that you need to keep track of when observing your insects. So when you're making your observations, sometimes it can be a lot to remember all of those specific observations, which is why I have my lovely handy dandy paper down here. And so this is our Bugs in Our Backyard field data record sheet, and it has this lovely front and back to keep record of all of the observations and the important ones that you make. So I'm going to be doing a little rundown of the sheet itself. So it has some really important information, such as your geographical location, so your latitude and longitude. Not only is it important to track the type of bug you're looking at, but it's also important to track its environment or its habitat. So you can look at if it's located on a plant, if it's located on the dirt or the grass, or another type of environment that I may not have listed, which is super cool that you can identify that host plant. So then on the back, this is where you can actually start tracking your bugs, how many, the color, the behavior, all of those cool characteristics. And so one of actually the most important parts of this sheet is a photograph. So you will be asked to take a photograph of the host plant, if there is a host plant, and the bug itself, because it's super important that they have accurate data of the insect and the plant that they're having so that the scientists that you're sending it to can make a super accurate depiction of what your insect or your plant is. So when you are done filling out that field data record sheet, you are actually going to be able to send it to the scientific database, and it's actually listed right at the bottom of the field data record sheet, and it's www.bugsinourbackyard.org. And so on there, you are actually going to be able to upload your data and your photographs to the scientific database in order to help contribute to this insect biodiversity study. Right, so now that we have finished our insects in our backyard, we are going to be moving on to our second project, which is called I See Change. This one is super cool because there's actually an app that you can download, or you can go on the website to track your local weather or climate data. And so what's super cool about this one is that there is a whole scientific community from people from all over the world, internationally, maybe even in your local community or state, and they are going to be all tracking the weather and the climate in order to come to a conclusion whether their climate is changing, or maybe figure out the factors that are affecting their climate. So let's go ahead and check this one out. I have my mobile device right here, and I just downloaded the I See Change app. So one of the first things it asks you to do is to set your location. And this is for the scientists to have a really accurate data collection of where you're located and the observations you make, and to correlate that to the data that they have. So let's go ahead and fill out those details. So now that I have filled out my location, the second thing I see is describe climate and weather. What do you see? So you can actually type in your observations right here of what you can see. So for instance, today's been kind of hot, honestly. So I'm going to put sunny day. So that's a nice observation that we have. And so once you type in your observation, you can track the date and the time, the street address, and finally, you can actually take a picture of what you see. So I have the beautiful sun to my right-hand side, and what I'm going to do is take a picture and upload it to this app. So once you have added your description or your picture, or both, you can actually organize your sighting. So you can select the natural environment tab or the weather tab and see if there are any changes in those areas in particular as well. And so the final step of inputting your data is the critical details. So it will ask you, how has the air quality changed? Or maybe the particle pollution or the outdoor pollution. But if you don't know these details, it's okay. You don't need to put them in. They're completely optional. They'll just help out the scientists a little bit by having those extra details. So once you're done, you can click submit. And then you just posted your first sighting. And so what's super cool about this one, you get to see everyone's sighting that's using the app, and you get to observe what they observed and compare it to your community. Now that we have wrapped up our two projects, I just want to reiterate why citizen science is so important. So it's really important because you are quite literally putting your own scientific data into a scientific community database for whatever your interest may be for sustainability and environmental science. And so not only is this so remarkable in the scientific community, it can be super fun because you don't have to do it alone. You can do it with your friends, you can do it with your family, or you can do it by yourself, whatever your preference may be to have the most fun while doing science. So I thank you guys so much for joining me and learning more about citizen science and the projects that you can take part of, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.